Hey, Yetta, why did the chicken want to sell his house?
I have no idea why chickens want to sell their house.
Because!
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.
All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Life's Inside Track. I'm Yetta Dekker.
And I'm Ken Dekker.
And it's where we get to share techniques, thoughts, tips, tools, and a little bit of fun because we all need that. We all deserve it. So we can turn our house into home, our families thrive, and we get to live the very best life possible. We're going to consider some fun stuff this time. Like, why does playfulness, why do we even start with playfulness? Why does playfulness actually reduce stress when you're selling your home?
That's a great question. And you know what? I just realized we kind of start the show every time with a little joke or something, right?
Well, or at least we think it's a little bit of a joke. Sometimes people might go, what?
Yeah, but that's okay. Because that's about lightheartedness.
Right.
And I think, selling your generally one of your most valuable assets is a serious time, right? You want to make the best decision for your family. You want to net the most amount of money possible. Mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of considerations to go on. So why are we talking about playful and fun? Because it makes a difference.
It really does, because selling your home, as you suggested, or if you're buying a home, anytime you're dealing with real estate, anytime you're dealing with big chunks of money, I am sure you're feeling some level of stress, some level of tension, some level of angst. Right. Because it's a big deal. So we're not saying let's not take the matter seriously, but what we're saying, if we can inject some fun and some playfulness into it, some lightheartedness, will actually develop way more of a successful outcome.
Yeah, which is interesting because, like we say, it is stressful. So what are some of the, what are the benefits of being a little more lighthearted, a little bit more playful?
You're actually more able to process complex ideas.
Really?
Yeah, we did lots of research for this, right? But we also looked at what's our life experience? When have we found we've made the best financial decisions, whether we're selling, buying, or even investing for that matter? When have we made the best decisions, and when have we kind of got hung up? And I think often we've got hung up when we've taken ourselves too seriously. We've taken the situation too seriously because, let's face it, money is just dirty paper.
Ooh. It's plastic now.
Well, it's plastic now, but, very quickly it moves to dirty plastic, right? Yeah. And so if you can just have a little bit of levity with it, it actually opens up creativity.
So you get more creative.
Okay. So you become a better problem solver because when you're more creative, you've got more problem solving ability.
So creativity is important when marketing, when staging, in the sale of the home, right? Now let's talk briefly, before we go down that road, let's talk the opposite. I'm thinking it's called the vagus nerve. What nerve is it? Your nervous system is it called the vagus nerve?
The big one that runs down?
Yeah. That affects your, when you get stressed or frightened or fearful or threatened, you get cortisol running through your veins and you get that 3 reactions, right?
Right. You're either going to choose, because it's a choice in that moment, that you're going to stay and play. And it's actually called, when I took a course a few years ago, that's funny, I wasn't even thinking about that when we were writing this episode. And yet, a few years ago when I took that course, she said, level 1, if you are doing it well, is you stay and you play. You stay and you engage. You stay in the space where you are, yet don't fight or flight. Because that's the next one, right? You're going to either come out with fisticuffs or you're going to fly. You're going to get lost.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't remember the stay and play one. That's hilarious because I took the course with you and it was about public speaking and being on the stage and being present for the people in front of you as opposed to worrying about what's going on in your body, which is the fight or flight. Or third one,
freeze and collapse.
Freeze and collapse.
Right? So If we don't fight or flight, we often will hide out, we collapse, we're completely immobile to do anything.
Right. So if we're in the midst of selling our home or thinking about selling our home or prepping our home, if we get too much stress, we may go into the freeze mode. What's the difficulty of being in freeze mode?
Oh my goodness. When people move into freeze, they don't make a decision that they know they need to make.
They don't make decisions. They don't go into activity like cleaning or staging, it's what we call overwhelm. That's a horrible word, right? But total overwhelm is where you
shut down.
You shut down, like Brene Brown talks about overwhelm in her emotions book. And it's that point where you've gotten too much stimuli and you cannot filter. Your brain's just shutting down, like you said, right? And we see that sometimes when people have a lot of stuff and clutter in their house, they just can't get it into motion. So we want to play at that.
Well, and so that's turning, we're talking about why. We'll in another segment talk about how to move into the play of state, right? Or in another segment, we'll unpack that a little bit more. But the whys right now is because it's very difficult to have successful outcomes when you're stressed out. Because of what you just shared. You're likely not going to stay in play unless you can really self-regulate quickly in a stressed out state. And the great news is when you're in a playful state, it's really easy to stay in play. Yeah, there is no stress out.
And you know what? We'd rather work with you when you're in a playful state. But if you happen to be in an overwhelmed state or a stress state at the moment, maybe you just want to connect with us together at dekkerteam.com and ask us your questions. We are delighted to answer questions, right?
Well, because when you do that, you become part of the community. And that's really the point. It's easier to ask us what you want to ask us. If you trust what we're telling you, then you might as well ask us. Because when you ask a lot of people, confusion and chaos sets in. It creates more stress.
It can, especially if they all have different opinions.
Well, and when don't a bunch of humans have different opinions?
Well, usually, unless they're in the same industry and have the same experience, but even then they'll be slightly different, but at least they should be on the same vein. If they're not, then somebody's wrong.
Right. And the other reason why you want to instill playfulness is because it makes you more motivated. It makes you more passionate. So that's what you were attempting to say. It moves you into action because without some passion and motivation, we're not usually going to feel our way into action.
Right.
But we may act our way into feeling good about a thing.
Ooh, act our way into feeling good. And you know what the side benefit is, I think? Your family doesn't freak out. You know what? If you do it playfully, then members of the family aren't stressed out and fighting. There isn't the infighting with siblings and spouses and all. Fighting with spouses over houses. That would be horrible, wouldn't it?
Well, and we've seen it way too many times, right?
Yeah. And that's why being in a playful state, a lighthearted state, allows people to be more flexible and encouraging to one another.
So we're really thinking about right now and asking you the question, what games may you want to play and why might you want to play some games the next time you're selling your house?
And we're glad that you joined us here on Life's Inside Track because we want to be positioning you to build wealth wisely because it's a lot much more than just about money.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward